Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that we cannot talk about what is, because that would be a conceptualization of what we are, or what is, or but what we can do is look at what happens mentally, what are some characteristics, and gain some awareness on our suppositions, and as a result of seeing these errors, what already is can shine forth, let's say. So these are not exact wordings, so but we cannot do anything uh, in this realm, like affect this, because this cannot be affected, like timelessness or the absolute presence. uh, it's not subject, let's say, it's not subject to our linear thinking and conceptual cause and effect um, kind of thinking. So first thing that we have to do is to make some discernment and put this linear thinking and cause and effect, which is like an instrument we have, in its place. So we have this instrument which helps us function in this world, like, but it's very important to see that this cannot help, and this the presence or being is not a result of anything we do or we think, or conclusions we draw. Is not influenced by this. So okay, so this is the first thing we have to do, this discernment, like uh, I had to do in my case. uh, I liked very much this saying that we are in this world but not of it. So what is the world? World is seen through concepts and linear thinking, and uh, we are in this world, like we imagine this but not of it. So it's not, this is not subject to, or being is not subject to this cause and effect way of seeing things. Okay, so let's see. It's good, this kind of thinking is very good in practical living. So it's okay if I conceptualize, like where is my toothbrush, and I'm going over there. So I imagine where is my toothbrush in my mind. Okay, and immediately I have a location, so I'm going there and find my toothbrush. But this is not the case with uh, being or presence or what already is. So it's not contained in a concept, and if I imagine that it is somewhere else, or I could find it, or that I could find it somewhere, I have to go there mentally and find it. So it doesn't function like that. So this has its place, this part has its place it's like a functionality, but we cannot use this instrument we have for this. So Yuji would say, this is not the instrument, there is no other instrument, there is nothing to be found. So there is nothing to be found. But this is not something to throw away. This is what I want to say. This is not something we should throw away. Like we don't have to stop thinking. We don't have to not. It's just see that this doesn't have any use for this. This can only have use to see itself, let's say, conceptually, to see the world of concepts. So we can talk about this, but we cannot talk about this. So and we can talk about this to see what are its limits, this instrument. So we have this instrument, and we believe that this is something super performant and can help us in our search for whatever it is, and peace of mind, or peacefulness, or happiness, or whatever. So we leave it as it is, and just see that this is not the instrument, there is no other instrument, and there is nothing to be found. And why this helps is because there is no hard work being done where there is not needed, and this hard work doesn't give any results, so why do it? So so this will lead to not so much frustration and not searching for something that it's not there. So also seeing this, there is no fight with normal functionality like thinking. So linear thinking is very okay, but okay, so how can this help us further? Like if we can see that this works in comparisons, like high and low, inside, outside, here and there, somewhere else, and if we can see that this doesn't apply to this, then immediately we can see that what we are looking for is not somewhere else, is not inside or outside, that we cannot be high or low, and other things like that. And actually this is all the confusion we can get, because we are trying to use this instrument to search for something, and even this search for something, so actually any search can be done only in this linear thinking mode. So any search is a process, and any search for something that is something else is a concept. So if we could see clearly that this is not does not apply to this, then we can see that this is not the instrument, and there is no other instrument, and there is nothing to be found here. So for me this was very important. So next could be also to look how this works. Like, it works through categories of objects, let's say. So we classify objects into classes of objects and those classes of objects into other classes of objects. So eventually we say that there is everything, right? And as opposed to nothing. So what encapsulates everything in our in this kind of way of seeing things is nothing. So we believe that everything came out of nothing, and that if everything is gone, then nothing remains. Like, but this is an error, or this is a way of seeing with this instrument. So if we can see this, we immediately travel lighter. Like, we don't have to attack our instrument, because it has its rightful place in this practical living. Like, where is my toothbrush, and if I'm driving the car, green light means to go and red light means to stop. So these are like some conventions, and these comparisons help us to function. But it has its use in like functionality, but it doesn't have its use for being. So this is like peace already. But what I want to look into further is that what actually is happening. So I want to bring into this discussion, let's say, Zeno, the paradoxes of Zeno, where one of the paradoxes or better known paradoxes is this paradox where if you have to go from some place to another place, you have to first travel half of that distance, and to travel that half of distance, first you have to travel half of that half of distance, and so on and so on. So actually you're not moving at all, or this movement from somewhere to somewhere else would take an infinite time. So or it's unreachable actually. So what I want to highlight here is that this makes sense to our minds. This makes sense. So mentally we are living in another realm, let's say, than what we say we live physically. But we cannot know actually what physical world is. Scientists are still searching for answers, let's say. So we cannot know actually what physical world is, but we draw some conclusions about it. That there is gravity, that there is cause and effect, that there is time, and all these uh, things that we said that pertain to the instrument. Okay, but if you look closer on how these suppositions are made, we we can see that even here uh, it's not quite like it seems. So let's say if we have a segment like this and we divide this into three, and then we take this part apart and zoom in. Okay, we zoom in and we make another segment exactly like this. We zoomed in. Okay, and this we also divide into three, and then again we zoom into this, and so on. This takes place as long as we do this zoom in. What I want to say is that our mind is actually instantaneous in nature. So what I want to say that this could go on forever, and as long as we entertain it. Okay, so if we are searching for something that's somewhere else in our mind, that can take place as long as we entertain that idea. So if we entertain the idea that something else is somewhere else, then immediately we are in an opposite direction of it, and uh, we imagine we travel along to, we are in some kind of process to find that place, but that takes place only until we do it. And if we can see that this happens in our mind mentally, and we give up this, then this is useless. And and actually this process never takes place. Actually, this going from somewhere to somewhere else never actually takes place. Zooming in is not actually a zooming in, it's imagined uh, as we do it, but there is not zooming in taking place. Actually, could we say that also about cause and effect, let's say? So so this has lots of implications, like maybe we imagine that there is cause and effect, and it looks like there is cause and effect, like it looks like we are zooming in but there is no zooming in taking place. So maybe it looks like there is time, but there is actually no time. I'm just saying that maybe it's something like a model we use. It's an instrument and the model we use, but maybe it's made up, let's say, because it in the what we call physical world looks like some things have continuity, like we wake up in the same place, or we call it the same place actually, and we look like we are the same person, and everything looks like mostly the same, and we draw some conclusions, but this is not necessarily the case. That's all I'm saying, that maybe we made up a model, and maybe it's not necessarily the case. Maybe it's because also in a dream it looks like we are going somewhere and everything feels quite real, but quite similar like here, and we take it as it is, but after we wake up we see that we know that we didn't go anywhere actually. So again, we don't know what is this field of experience. Like, we say it's a world, we say it's physical life, but we forget that we use a model in our mind to say how things are. And all I'm saying is that maybe that's not necessarily true, as we are still, as science, we are still trying to understand what we call physical, and we leave that for them. But what we can look at is this model we use, this instrument we use, basically to say how life is, or and we draw some conclusions. And it's interesting that the more, from my experience, that the more I ponder on these things, and the more I can see this instantaneity of mind, the more synchronicities tend to happen. Like, comes like a confirmation that uh, maybe physical life is not actually so physical, or uh, yes, the more synchronicities happen. Like, if I say I don't know how life is, I don't know what this is, and I'm not trying to constrain this field of experience into what I think it is, then the more it shows that it's not quite so physical, let's say.